Hey there, good evening. I think we are live now. 3 people in here already. Well, let me get some things out of the way while we're waiting for everybody to join. First of all, this is a weekly live broadcast. I do this pretty much every Thursday evening. Sometimes life gets in the way, so I'm not able to do it, but for the most part, every Thursday evening, I go live. I answer your questions. I don't have a topic planned, so leave a comment in the chat. In the chat window itself, if you're watching after the video is over and you leave it in the comments section, I'll try to get to it later, but in the chat section itself, you leave a question, you leave a comment. I do my best to respond to every single one of those. I try. Sometimes I miss one or two here or there. If you you can kind of watch how the chat's going, and if you see me like go way past yours, then you know I've missed it. You can ask it again, but wait until then because sometimes people get impatient and there's a little bit of a delay, and it takes me a while to get through them all. So I do my best to get to them all though. But I will give you a warning. This is family friendly. Keep it family friendly. You get one warning. If you start getting rude, if you start getting, crass, if you start, cussing, those kinds of things, we're going to boot you out. So, other than that, we're ready to get going. We got a couple of people here. Hello to you, Jaden. Good to see you. Glad you can make it. And I got a camera behind me. It makes it look kind of weird. And let me adjust the camera a little bit here. By the camera, I mean my phone. And see if we can get, there we go. I think that's a little bit better. I got something growing out of the top of my head, it looks like. I got to move that. That's going to distract me and drive me crazy. All right, that's probably better. Let's try that. All right, who we got here? Jesse, I think it is. Good evening to you. And Kay Mundweiler says, what's your best advice for a snuffles or snuffles-like illness in rabbits, and what do you think causes it? Yeah, snuffles is a very common thing in rabbits. If it is snuffles, it could be something really, really bad. It's a respiratory infection, basically. Most of the time, you're going to need to treat that with some kind of antibiotic in order to get rid of it. What I would suggest is quarantine that rabbit, get it far away from the rest of your rabbits, because it can be highly contagious. You don't want to spread that through your rabbitry. Now, as long as the rabbit's eating and drinking just fine, you can just monitor the rabbit. Otherwise, like I said, you're going to need probably some kind of antibiotic to treat that, which you would probably have to go to a vet to get, unfortunately. Biggest thing I would do, though, again, quarantine. Get it far away from the rest of your rabbits. You don't want that to spread. Disinfect its cage so that you don't have to worry about those illnesses or those bacteria spreading. Hopefully, it's just an allergy or something like that, and the rabbit gets over it, recovers just fine. But you never know, and it's better safe than sorry. If it is something like snuffles, again, it can be highly contagious, and leaving it there with the rest of your rabbits, it could spread through the rest of your rabbitry. Hopefully that helps. I'm sorry I can't give you like a surefire, here, use this, and that's going to help. But there's so many things that could be wrong with the rabbit. It's hard to tell exactly what it is. So hopefully that gives you the answer you were looking for there, okay? Sorry I couldn't give you more. So let's move on here. Let's see. Got to get through the chats. All right. Hey, David. Good to see you. Thank you so much for the kind comments there. And Abigail, hello to you. Hello to you, Lori. And Dinte, I think it is. Dinte, I'm doing well. Thank you. Hopefully you are too. And let's see. Greywind, hello to you. And Jaden Gray says, I watch your videos all the time. Hard to watch live. Different time zone in Australia. Oh yeah, I imagine that is tough. Sorry I can't do it at other times, but I work a full-time job. I work Monday through Friday all day long. So Thursday evening is about the only time I have available. I realize it's a different time zone for you. Thank you for staying up late, because it's got to be like 1 in the morning there, 3 in the morning, or some crazy time. I mean, it's who knows exactly. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it, and thanks for watching the videos. I appreciate that too. Good morning to you, Sharon. You said that, let's see, or not good morning, good evening, sorry, to you, Sharon. You said one of your American chinchilla is now bred. Oh, nice. Congratulations. Hopefully you have a big litter. Jonathan says, good night. How good are chinchilla as meat rabbits? Chinchillas make pretty good meat rabbits, actually. Surprisingly, I mean, there's the giant chinchillas, and they actually do make a pretty good meat rabbit. Now, my experience is they grow out a little bit slower, but not bad. So all in all, they're a pretty good meat rabbit. Decent litters. I've only had one, but the one that I had was it was actually a mix, I think. It was a New Zealand chinchilla cross, I believe, if I remember right. But she produced pretty good sized litters. They grew out, like I said, a little slow, but not bad. And they were good and meaty rabbits. So now the hard part about them is they are very, very cute. So it's really difficult to process those rabbits when you look in there and they were friendly, they were cute, they were just, it was a difficult thing to do. But other than that, they make a pretty good meat rabbit, so I wouldn't shy away from them. Jonathan says, good night. Oh, I already answered that one, didn't I? Lyndon says, hey Chris, my quail are 12 to 14 weeks old now, still no eggs, and I've had extra lighting on them for a couple of weeks, 24% protein feed. Thoughts? Probably just have to wait a little bit longer. 8 to 10 weeks is probably pretty average, but 12 to 14 weeks is not unheard of for them to start laying. If you've had light on them for the last 2 weeks, they're getting 14 hours a day of light, 24% protein. I like a little higher percentage, but that's not going to keep them from laying. 24% is fine. It's going to work okay. And sometimes it just takes them a little while. Sometimes they just are a little bit stubborn when it comes to starting to lay, and it just takes a little while. So you may just have to wait just a little bit longer. You're doing everything right. Don't go moving them around. Don't go changing a lot of things, because the stress will keep them from laying longer. And just wait on them. Chances are they'll start laying like tomorrow. Now that you got on here and asked the question, they're just sitting in their cage waiting for it so they can lay an egg and laugh at you probably. So good luck with it. They will start laying pretty quick though. Don't stress. You're doing everything right. All right, Abigail says, any advice on how to reuse rabbit manure? Well, if you've got gardening or plants or any of that kind of stuff, it's fantastic fertilizer. It is a cold manure, so it doesn't have to be composted first, unlike chicken, poultry, quail, all those. Those are a hot manure. If you put those directly on your plants, it's going to burn them. It's going to give them a nitrogen overload and burn them. Rabbit manure will not do that. It's a very good fertilizer. So you can just throw it straight on your plants. If you're doing it like house plants, you might want to kind of cover it with a little bit of dirt so it's not like a bunch of rabbit manure sitting on top of the house plant. But it works great as a fertilizer, so you can use it for that. You can compost it up if you want to. Throw it in a big compost pile and save it up, because you may not need it all right now. If you dry it out, you can also sell it. And I guess you could sell it without drying it out, but drying it out makes it a lot easier to store. And I just fill like feed bags full of it and sell it on like Craigslist or whatever as a fertilizer. People will come and buy it $5-10 a bag, something like that. Those are a couple of ways that you could reuse it. Other than that, I don't know of any other way to reuse it. That's my thoughts on it anyway. All right, Colleen says, quail have quit laying for 3 weeks now. They get all kinds of light, and that's a question. Okay. When you say they get all kinds of light, I assume that means you've added some light so that it extends their daylight to about 14 hours a day. So as long as they're getting 14 hours a day of light and they quit laying for 3 weeks, there's probably some kind of stress factor that went into that. If you recently moved them, if you changed their cage around a lot, if there's a predator that came by and harassed them, something like that, it will take them a couple of weeks to get over that and start laying again. Those would be my guess. Now, if you just added the lights, here's what you got to realize about quail is that they don't produce an egg every day. It takes a little while for the egg to work through their body. So let's see if I can explain this, if I can make it make sense like it is in my head. So they start with producing an egg, but by the time they lay that egg, they've already got 3 or 4 eggs inside them that are working on developing. Same thing whenever they start laying again. So if you waited till they stopped laying to add the light, or waited till maybe they were on the verge of stopping their laying because the days are getting shorter, because they're getting less daylight, and then you added light to it, it's going to take a couple of weeks for them to recover from that and start producing again. Hopefully that makes sense. That's my guess as to what the issue is. Unless there's some kind of stress factor, cats coming by and pestering them, owls, hawks, any of that kind of stuff, that's probably what happened. So that'd be my best guess. Hopefully that helps. All right, excuse me. Grab a drink here real quick. Hey, let me know, guys. Am I yelling at you guys, or am I screaming? Is the volume okay? Sometimes I get a little over anxious, and I feel like I might be screaming at you guys. I'm trying to talk loud enough to where I don't have an external mic plugged into my phone. That's what I'm recording on, or actually live streaming on. So I try to speak loud enough that it carries, but at the same time, I know sometimes I can be pretty loud. So, all right. Chris says, hey, Chris, I'm up to 130 Coturnics and 22 Butler Bobs. I have built 3 pens with Guessworks and 2 using your design. The water cups are almost unfair as they greatly decrease chore time. Yeah, they do greatly decrease chore time for sure, but 130 Coturnics, 22 Sounds fine down there. Okay, thank you very much. Good. If I start yelling, if I start getting too loud or I'm too quiet, you guys let me know. All right. Anyway, back to you, Chris. Yeah, 130. That's a lot of Coturnix quail to keep track of, and 22 bob whites on top of that. That's a lot of birds to keep track of. Glad to hear things are working well for you, though. I agree. The water cups are fantastic. It's one of the best investments I've made. I was gone on vacation, for a week, and I don't think the neighbor had to refill the water bucket once. It's it. You just go out there, and if you have a big enough feeder, all you do is go out and collect eggs every day, and you're done. So it's pretty easy for sure. So hey, Rhonda, good to see you. I'm glad you could make it. Says sorry, I've been missing in action. Been really busy. Had baby bunnies on the 14th, and had to send 23 quail to freezer camp 2 weeks ago. Or two, was it? Yeah, I think it was 2 weeks ago is what you're trying to say. Yeah, sounds like you've been pretty busy. Hey, I understand. I get plenty busy myself all the time, and I miss things. So, don't stress about it. It's perfectly all right. We're glad to see you here tonight. Thanks for joining us. All right, where are we at here? Lyndon. Lyndon says, thanks, my friend. Also, I know you don't know a ton about ducks, but do you know anything about the laying season for call ducks? I've heard multiple thoughts. Some say only 3 months of the year. Well, I don't know a whole lot about call ducks right offhand, but they're pretty much like most other poultry, I think. So that would be, it depends on the daylight. They're probably going to need 14 hours a day of light to lay. They may be only laying for 3 months of the year. I really don't know that I can answer that one for you. I know there are some breeds of ducks that will lay all year long, and just like chickens or quail or any of that kind of stuff. And I don't think call ducks are one of those. I think they are a little bit more limited layer. They're not going to lay nearly all year long. But no, I don't think I can answer that one for you. I'm sorry. I wish I could. All right. Janito maybe? Said, good evening, Chris. Saludos from Argentina. Well, thank you very much. And I appreciate that. Thanks for joining us all the way from Argentina. I'm working on my Spanish, so who knows? Maybe someday we'll be doing some Spanish videos, or I'll do a Spanish live cast or something, but it's going to be a while. I'm far from bilingual right now. I can just speak very little Spanish. Deer Creek Homesteading says, will a rabbit pull hair in the nesting box if not pregnant? It does happen from time to time. It could be a false pregnancy. It could be, sometimes rabbits will abort their pregnancy too, and they just kind of absorb the kits. But the hormones are still going to be produced, so the hormones are what make the fur loose around their dewlap. It's where they usually pull it from, and the hormones during their pregnancy is what makes it loose for them to be able to pull that. Sometimes they'll still go through the motions and pull fur even if they're not pregnant. Now, if your rabbit is pulling fur, I would wait a while before you consider it not pregnant. Give it at least a week, and you should probably have a pretty good idea of when it was bred or supposedly bred. So, don't just go, well, 30 days, there's no babies, she's not pregnant. Give her 35 days at least before you consider her not pregnant, and, go from there. Hopefully that answers that for you. All right, Kay says, Kay Mundwiller, boy, that's a hard name for me to pronounce for some reason, says, when you have a good number of rabbits, do you think spending $3 a month for each rabbit a month to include pellets, hay, straw, and supplements when desired, a reasonable cost in Missouri? I'm not sure. You mean when you have a good number of rabbits, do you think spending $3 per month? $3 per month for each rabbit for all their food and everything to take care of them, I think that's pretty good if that's what you're talking about. I think I understand what you're asking. And in Missouri even, so your neighbor probably. Where was I going with that? Oh, yeah, I think $3 a month's a pretty good price. I'm trying to think of how often I go through, right now I've just got the two breeders. I just had to buy a bag of feed, and, that's like $15, $16, something like that, and that'll last them, it'll probably last them at least a month right at, but, that's more than $3 per month per rabbit. So I would say $3 per month per rabbit is a pretty good deal. So, yeah, I would think it's a good price. All right. Rhonda says, sending 4 rabbits to freezer camp on Sunday. Put 100 quail eggs in the incubator. Lockdown will be September 30th. Also have hopefully 2 does due on October 7th. That's my sister's birthday, October 7th. So, well, good luck with those. I hope it all works out well. Sounds like you are busy. Things are going well, though. I'm glad to hear it. Let's see. Chris says, my butler's maturity is 16 to 22 weeks till egg laying. 14 hours LED light with 30% protein feed. Chicken live these messy quail food flingings. Chicken live these. Oh, I think you mean chickens love these messy quail food flingings. Yeah, I can imagine they do. So they mature at 16 to 22 weeks, 14 hours with 30% protein feed. Yeah, bob whites do mature a lot slower than Coternics do. 16 to 22 weeks sounds about right to me, I think. And but hey, good luck with them. Hopefully they do well for you and lay lots of eggs for you. All right, Jennifer says, I want to thank you for your videos. My mom's and my rabbit had her first litter, and you help us know it's common. Okay, great. Hey, I'm glad that you're finding the videos helpful, and congratulations on your first litter. And I hope all the babies are doing really well, and good luck with them as they go forward. Thank you for watching, by the way. All right, Lauren says, to Deer Creek Homestead, it might be a false pregnancy. Yeah, it might be. That's kind of what I'm leaning toward based on the way that you asked the question. It probably is a false pregnancy, but like I said, give them a little bit of time just to make sure. All right, Rhonda says, if for some reason they don't have enough water, will they stop laying eggs as well? That can affect them because it is a stress factor for them. If they don't have enough food, if they don't have enough water, then yeah, that can affect their egg laying for sure. But make sure they have water all the time, make sure they have food all the time. Because one thing about quail is if they run out of food, especially, even if it's just for like a couple of hours, they seem to go crazy. I mean, like cannibalistic, they start attacking each other. They panic when they're out of food. So you got to make sure they have food all the time. All right, Richard says, sounds good to me. Most people say I'm deaf. So, well, as long as you guys can hear it okay, like I said, if I start screaming too loud or anything like that, you guys let me know. All right, Rhonda says ducks normally only lay around 25 to 80 eggs a year. Yeah, well, it depends on what kind of ducks, but yeah, I think you're probably right with call ducks. I know some of the others, what is it, Indian runners? Is that, I don't know. I'm going to have to look that up because I'm not a duck expert yet. All right, Richard says, our Peking ducks average 228. There we go, Peking ducks. That's another one, 228 eggs per year. Yep, some ducks are, all ducks are a little bit different. They're not all the same. Just like not all chickens are the same. Not all chickens are layer chickens. Some are meat chickens. There's a difference. All right, Rhonda says, my birthday is October 7th as well. Well, happy early birthday, because I'm probably going to forget by then. I know a couple people that have October 7th birthdays. All right, Abigail says, any advice on how to build hutches where you can replace the wire? My hutches are normally made of pallet wood. So you're wanting advice on to build the hutch so you can replace the wire? I like when it wears out, replace it, if that's what you mean. If that's the case, then just make the bottom, it's a little bit tricky because normally I would say just make the bottom out of, one piece of wire so that you can just take it off and replace it. That's really the only thing that's probably going to need to be replaced anyway is the bottom. The rest of the stuff's probably going to last pretty much forever. But at the same time, I like to wrap the wire around to give it extra stability so it's not just held on by like staples into the wood, but it's held on because it's wrapped around the sides and up the sides. But, you can do that. You could also, if you want to give it extra stability, use some like 1-inch furring strips or something like that. They're cheap at any kind of local, hardware store, and cut them to the width of your cage or whatever. You staple your wire to the cage, and then you could put a 1-inch furring strip up against there and screw it to the hutch itself to work kind of like a clamp to hold that wire in place and give it a little bit of extra stability. And then it wouldn't be too hard to just take that off and replace the bottom if you needed to. That would be pretty easy to do. The only problem you're going to have is that you are probably going to have a mess under the hutch. So you're going to have to, you got to figure if you're replacing the bottom of the cage, you're going to be underneath the cage. And if quail have been in it for a long time, that means you're going to be laying on your back in a pile of quail manure to replace it. Throw a tarp over it or something. Who knows? I don't know. That's my thought on it. All right. Jesse D says, finally back trying to catch 2 quail that got out and trying to finish the goat milk soap. I almost said goat milk soup. That sounds gross, but goat milk soap. Awesome. Well, hey, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Glad you caught the 2 quail. Well, you said trying to catch them. I'm assuming you caught them. I'm not sure if you did or not, but, and goat milk soap. Interesting stuff there. We bought some goat milk soap, I think, at a farmer's market a while back, and I think my wife was disappointed because I don't think it had goat milk in it. I think it was just called goat milk soap. But anyway, it was good soap. It worked just fine. And I bought some, I think it was different people. It wasn't goat milk soap. No, I bought some shave soap from a different soap maker that was, man, it was fantastic stuff. I need to go back and get more of that. All right, I'm getting sidetracked here. Rhonda says, I have some Bob White and Coturnix quail in together. They seem to be doing great. I'm sure if you raise them together, they're going to do just fine. They're going to get along just fine. Let's see. Kane Munwiller says, yes, we're neighbors, and thank you. That encourages me. I did mean like $3 per month per rabbit. 2 rabbits might cost more than $20 per rabbit. Yeah, well, I don't think I'm spending more than $20. I think I probably spend somewhere around, maybe $10 a month on each rabbit. And of course, like you said, that price per rabbit goes down as I increase my rabbit size. You would think it would go up, but no, it goes down a little bit. Because, as I've got more babies and things, the babies don't cost that much per month. And they're only around for a short time. So, I don't know. Let's see. Jennifer McKinney says, sorry, the reason didn't come up that it's common to lose the litter, especially when a small litter. Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah, it is common. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I missed that. Yeah, you have a small litter like that, it's not uncommon to lose them both, especially with a first-time mom that's inexperienced, doesn't really know what she's doing yet. She just doesn't know enough to care for them, and it isn't uncommon to lose them. Hang in there, though. If you breed her again, the next litter is probably going to be much, much better, so don't stress about that. All right, Rhonda says, I know they need water. It was a typo. Sorry about that. Mine will line up in the front if they are out of water. I have so many that I fill up their water every day. Yeah, you need to get I think yours are inside though, so this may not be easy, but yeah, get a 5-gallon bucket with the water cup set up to it, and yeah, that goes much, much easier. All right, Jesse says, my mallard ducks lay every day, which is a plus. Yep, that is for sure. Rhonda says, Campbell duck are likely to lay an egg a day. Yep, different ducks lay different amounts for sure. Big Country Vet says, my Texas A&M quail can seem to make the water cup work. I have to put the yellow thing for them day and night. Are you sure they're not making it work? Excuse me. Keep in mind that those won't hold water in them at all. They're going to look completely dry all the time, even if the quail are getting drinks out of them. And usually, if you push that little plunger and it fills up with water, and if they just come run into it immediately and start fighting over who gets a drink, then yeah, that's a pretty good indicator that they can't make it work. But if they just kind of like you push the plunger down and fill it up with water, and they're just kind of like, oh, there's water over there, and they just kind of mill over there and get themselves a drink of it, they're probably making it work. It's just easier to drink it out of there when you fill it up for them. So they're not going to go through the extra. They're going to go ahead and get a drink while there's water there. But chances are they're making it work. I have never run into quail that can't make it work. You just don't see them doing it very often. Think about it this way. If you think about the birds in a brooder box, when you've got the water container in there, because you're probably not using the cups, you're using like a mason jar water or something like that. If that thing runs dry, they're still standing there pecking at the glass, and when you bring it in to put the water in there, they come over and start pecking at the jar. They're just immediately ready. They know where the water is, and they're going after it all the time. Your birds would be doing the same thing if they can't get the water cups to work. They're still going to be at the water cups pecking at them, trying to figure it out. So chances are they are getting it to work. It's just you're concerned that they're not. That would be my guess. All right. Jennifer Hislop says, my 4-month-old Coturnix quail laid a white egg yesterday. I've never seen anything other than the wild type. What would cause this? They ran out of toner, probably. You have to refill their toner. No, I'm kidding. It's a normal thing. You'll get white eggs. You'll get completely brown eggs. You'll get little bitty tiny eggs, great big eggs. You'll get eggs with no shell on them. It's just stuff that happens from time to time. I get birds that, some birds are more prone to it. They lay white eggs more frequently than other birds, but it's a normal thing. It just happens. It's nothing at all to worry about. Nothing's causing it. It's just part of the egg laying. It's no big deal. All right. Hey, Boris, how are you? Mark says, if a mom rabbit never built a nest but had her babies, does that mean her milk might never come? She's a young mom, first litter. Unlikely. Just the act of having babies is going to make her develop. It's going to make her milk come in. So even if she didn't build a nest, she's probably still going to have plenty of milk to feed the babies. It's not really much to worry about. You know, sometimes young mothers, they don't know what's going on. Sorry, somebody's laughing at my stupid jokes. So, you know, sometimes they don't know what to do necessarily. They're a little bit, like I said, they don't build a nest, they don't pull any fur. It takes them a little while to get in the swing of things, but they almost always, there's very seldom ever a problem with them not developing milk, unless you're feeding them something weird like, you know, lots of mint or lots of dandelion or any of that kind of stuff. Those things can cause a doe to dry up, so you want to stay away from anything in the mint family, you know, dandelion, any of that kind of stuff while a doe is nursing. But I wouldn't worry too much about her not having milk at all. I think that she's going to be just fine. All right, Conscious Living Homestead says, I have some 3-week-old and 6-week-old quail. If I put them together and add the younger males, do you think they would be okay? 3-week-old and 6-week-old, probably so. I've had pretty good luck with mixing younger birds, 3 to 4 weeks old, in with adult birds, and those are full adult birds, you know, 12, 14, 15, 16 weeks old. I've had pretty good luck doing that. It seems like they don't seem to, you know, until the birds become sexually mature, they're not a threat. So it's a good way to mix those in. Now, as long as the birds that are 3 weeks old are big enough to kind of not get trampled on by the bigger birds, they're probably just fine to go ahead and add in. It's always worked out well for me anyway. All right. Excuse me. Abigail says, the cage would be for rabbits. My males always urinate in one corner and then end up corroding and breaking. The cage would be for rabbits. So, okay. I know what we're talking about now. Sorry, you guys. Sometimes you know, I know we've been talking, we've had a conversation, so you're responding to me, but I've responded to a whole bunch of comments in between now and then, so I forget where we're at and what we were talking about. So give me a second. Okay, so you want to be able to make the cage for rabbits so you can replace the wire. And again, it's almost always going to be the bottom wire that you're going to have to replace, just the floor of the cage. And that's pretty easy. You just make the floor of the cage, I mean, it's its own piece of wire. And I do that anyway because the floor wire needs to be a different size. It's a more expensive wire than what I use for the sides. The sides is a bigger gauge, not a bigger gauge, but a bigger square, like 1-inch square, I think. Maybe it's 2-inch square I use on the sides and the top because it's cheaper. So I make the sides all one piece of wire, if that makes sense, and the bottom and top is a separate piece of cage wire. So then you just, you know, you clamp the bottom on there with J-clips. If it comes time to replace it, you just take the cage down, you take off the J-clips, cut a new piece of wire, stick it on there, J-clip it back on. I've done a couple of videos where I think I've shown me, you know, replacing bottoms of cages and stuff. I have to replace the bottom of a rabbit cages every, you know, couple of years. Well, probably about once a year or so. I'll end up having to replace a cage bottom here or there. Hopefully that answers that question. We got that cleared up for you. And if you need to, you know, my very first video I ever made for YouTube was how to build a wire rabbit cage. If you go back and watch that, you'll see how I make my cages. I'll warn you, it's my first video ever. So it's got some weird transitions in there, you know, fades to black with some writing. It's not very good. I mean, I think the video is okay structurally wise. It's just a little bit long. It's a little bit drawn out. It's, you know, all those kinds of things. Not great from that standpoint, but it will show you how I build my cages. So you can go ahead and watch that and you'll see how you can replace the bottom. All right, so let me check something here real quick. What is going on here? Something going on there. Somebody's getting impatient, I guess. You're just gonna have to wait, sorry. Where we at here? Rebecca says, can quail eat pawpaws? I don't see why they can't. I don't know if they will. You can try it. They're not going to get my pawpaws because there's only 3 of them on my tree. I'm waiting for them to get ripe so I can eat them myself. But try it and see. I don't know if they will or not, but I'm sure that, I mean, there's no reason they can't eat them. So if they will, go ahead and feed them to them. Let's see. Verna says, come on, people, hit the thumbs up button. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Hey, Walt, good to see you. Let's see. Chris Harris says, Chris, my local feed store saves me those cardboard slip sheets from the pallets. I throw them under the pins, and once a month or so, I roll them up and compost the whole sheet. Sounds like a great idea. Yeah, that seems like a fantastic idea. Walt says, keeps freezing. I guess you're talking about the video is freezing up. I'm sorry, guys. I think I'm connected to Wi-Fi. Let me check real quick and make sure my phone is connected to Wi-Fi. I don't know if I can do that while I'm on the live broadcast. I can't. We're going to have to just deal with it, hopefully. I should be connected to Wi-Fi anyway, so I don't know what's causing it. I'm sorry. Rhonda says, I have 2 water buckets with the water system you set up. All of them are on the same system, and both buckets are for everyone, so I don't run out. They are all outside now. Got too many to have inside. Good. I think that's a good choice. It's much easier to have them outside than it is to have them inside for sure. Let's see. Walt says, Khaki Campbell ducks can lay 200 eggs a year. Khaki Campbell's is another one. You're right. Verna says, I live in an apartment and have just under 2 dozen eggs in the incubator, hoping to raise quail inside. It can be done. You know, you don't want to go overboard. You don't want to go with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of birds. 2 dozen is not a bad thing to start with. You're just going to want to process them. You know, not all of them, of course, but process. You know, your extras. I would pare down to probably about a dozen, maybe that you're going to keep as breeders, if that. Because that's going to produce plenty of eggs for you to be able to incubate more, have eggs to eat, all that kind of stuff, and it's not going to get overwhelming inside of an apartment. I will tell you, just do something about the water to keep the water from, you know, assuming you're going to have cages set up with a dropping tray under them to catch the droppings, you want to keep them dry. They're not too bad as far as the smell goes if it's dry. If they get wet, though, you don't want the water leaking, because if they get wet, it's a pretty bad smell if they're wet. So do your best to keep things dry, and you should be okay. Oh, you are going to deal with some dust. You know, quail, you know, their feathers are going to go places, that kind of stuff. It's not that big of a deal. It's pretty easy to take care of, honestly. All right. AB says, if you had the land, what do you think about quail house grazing like chickens, moving the house after 12 hours or so? I think you're talking kind of like a like a chicken tractor type thing. That's fine. Yeah, do it. There's no reason you shouldn't be doing it. I think quail are perfectly happy living on the ground. I've seen some setups that looked really nice. There was a guy that had like a big hoop house type thing, and it was pretty long. It was made out of like cattle panels, you know, bent over and tied together at the top. So it was a big hoop house thing, and it was set up in 3 sections. So he just rotated them through the 3 sections. Like every couple of weeks, he would move them to another section, you know, just kind of chase them into another section and then block that one off, give it time to recover while they were in that section, and then again, move them to the next section, and then they would come back to the first section. They would just rotate through the thing, and he had like plants and things in there, like used it like a greenhouse and all that kind of stuff, and they did great in there. I don't see why you couldn't do the same kind of thing for him. All right, Rhonda says, oh my gosh, Chris, are you dying? Oh, made you laugh with the toner comment on the eggs, huh? Brandy says, my rabbit is 32 days pregnant and still doesn't have any baby. 32 days. Don't stress about that, Brandy. It's pretty common. You said she pulled a little bit of fur yesterday and today. Chances are she's getting ready to have her babies any day now. It's not uncommon for rabbits to go up to day 35 or even 36 sometimes. Some rabbits do that every time they have babies. 30 is pretty close to the average, and most rabbits are going to have their babies right at 30 days. But some of them are going to go a little bit longer. So don't stress about that. If she just started pulling fur and, you know, within the last day, I would say that probably today, tomorrow, I would expect her to have her babies pretty quick. Good luck with them. I hope it does work out. All right, Kinsey says, hello, Chris. Haven't been able to catch you live in a while. Been working, but always watch the videos after. I'm back now. Well, I'm glad to have you back. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching the videos after, too. I appreciate that as well. All right, Kay Mundwiller says, how long do you give a doe who won't breed? I have a doe who's had a litter before, but she suffocated them with too much fur. Now I can't get her to accept any male. I've tried 5 males. Well, you know, you're going to have to make that decision for yourself. You know, a couple things you can do. We've talked about this many, many times. What I find usually, and that's a pretty common thing, where does are just reluctant to breed. A couple of things you can do. Just over and over and over again, try, and not necessarily different bucks, but even the same buck. So go but be persistent with it. Don't, you know, try to breed her and she doesn't want to breed, so give her a week and then try again. Don't do that. It's, you know, try to breed her in the morning. If she's not receptive, you know, give her 15 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that. If she's just hunkered down in the corner, doesn't want to be bred, go ahead and move her back to her cage and then try again that evening. Same thing. If she doesn't want to be bred, move her back to her cage, try again the next morning. Usually 4, 5, 6 times of that, and she's willing to breed, no problem. Those are kind of, they're induced ovulators, and then the act of being in the presence of a buck is what kind of makes them ready to breed anyway. They don't really go into heat like a lot of other animals do. It's just, it's an induced, hopefully that makes sense. You understand what I'm saying. So that can do that. Now you can do things like, one of the suggestions is to move your male to another cage, put her in the male's cage overnight, and then move her out of that cage, put the buck back in, give him overnight, move her back into the buck's cage, see if she'll breed. Another thing that, again, I have no idea why this works, but so many people just rave about it. There's got to be something to it. Is put her in a pet carrier and put her in your car and drive her around the block a couple of times, and then bring her back and put her in the male's cage to breed. Some reason that seems to work really, really well for people. They report great luck with that. So, those are a couple of things you can try to get her to breed. As far as how long I would give her, if I can't get her bred within a couple of months of trying this stuff, I mean, you can force breed her. You can hold her down, hold her still, let the buck mount, and hold her in place, lift her for him. It's a little bit tricky to do, and to me, it's kind of a little traumatic, but you can do it. But again, if I can't get her bred within, I would say I wouldn't give her much more than about 2 months, and then I'm going to look at getting a replacement rabbit. It's much easier when you have a doe that is willing to breed. Then life is so much easier that way. All right. Hopefully the freezing issues are fixed, Walt. Sorry about that. Hello to you, Brandy. I think we answered your question already, and you've got a whole bunches of hello, 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 hello. Stop testing my patience. So just be patient with me. Give me a second here. I'm working my way through the comments. I got other people that ask questions too. I'm doing my best to get to them all. All right. Abigail says, let's see, Brandy, the birth period. Oh, the birth period for rabbits is 28 to 35 days. I had a rabbit give birth on day 42. Don't worry about it. Just wait a few more days. Good advice, Abigail. I appreciate that. Mark says, wait, I thought dandelions were good for milk. Mint blocks milk. Dandelions let milk flow better. You may be right on that. Maybe I'm mixed up on that. At least that is what I read online. Sorry if that is confusing, Chris. No, you may be right. I think you are right now that I think about it. I think you're right. I made a mistake. Mint is bad. Anything in the mint family is bad. And for some reason, I thought dandelions were, but now that I think about it, I think you're right. They're not. I think dandelions are good for them. Milk's bad. Maybe it's, there's something else. Anyway, I think you're right. Sorry, I made a mistake. All right, where are we at here? Jennifer says, I thought that the paint crew went on strike causing the white egg. I guess it was the toner. Thanks very much. Yeah, it could be the paint crew. Who knows? All right, where are we at here? Richard says, no lockups or freezes here, Chris. Well, Walt, maybe, are you on the bus tonight, Walt? Maybe that's what's causing YouTube to freeze up. I don't know. Big Country Vet says, I tried to make a quail cage from your video, and I got so cut up, I ordered a cage from Winola Ranch. I'm so sorry about that. Hopefully you didn't hurt yourself seriously. Yeah, working with wire, hopefully, I think what you're talking about is probably the wire scratching you up. Yeah, it can be working with wire. Always wear gloves. Best to have long sleeves on. That stuff it's sharp when you cut the edges, and it will scratch you up really pretty badly if you're not careful. I'm sorry about that. I wish that it would have been easier. Verna says, what quail do you mean when you say your meat quail and the sea quail? Can't remember how to spell the name. Coturnix. So your meat quail and the Coturnix quail. I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question. I've got two different types of Coturnix quail right now. I've got meat makers and I've got jumbo pharaohs. They're both a jumbo bird. There was really not a big difference between them. They're pretty much the same, but they are two different kinds. You can't tell by looking at them. They look exactly the same. They grow out pretty close to the same, but they are two different bloodlines, meat makers and jumbo pharaohs. Maybe that's what you're talking about. They're all Coturnix quail, though. They're all Coturnix. So you could put them together and they would crossbreed. You would never know the difference of them. All right. Hopefully that answers that. All right. Desert Blacksmith says, thanks for quail info, Chris. Looking to expand the farm from chickens and ducks to raise quail. Do you supplement high pro quail feed with meat or like ducks and chickens? Okay. Or question mark, like with ducks and chickens, I think is what you're saying. I don't supplement. I don't know what high pro quail feed is. I'm not familiar with that. I use quail feed from a from a local feed mill. So, that's the brand that I use, but I don't supplement it with anything. That's what they get. That's it. I don't mess with any supplements for them. There's no reason you can't. You can supplement it with extra things if you want to. I'm not sure meat's a great idea. Insects and things like that. Technically, I guess they are meat, but those would work if you can try meat. Who knows? Maybe it'll work just fine. All right, Chris Harris says, in my brooders, I use dog pee pads, and I have 2 plastic totes, and I swap them for cleaning. Look it up, Quail Johnny Recall Coop Pen. So, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'm familiar with a Johnny Recall pen, but that's for like bob whites, your flight conditioning, for like hunting preserves and those kinds of things. It's not going to work with Coturnix. It's not going to work well with Coturnix at all. But as far as the dog pee pads and plastic totes, that sounds like a great idea. It might be a little bit expensive. I don't know how much those cost, but seem to be a little bit expensive. I do have 2 boxes as well. I have 3 actually, because I have my meat makers in one, my farrows in one, and then I have a spare one. So when it comes time to clean out the brooder boxes, I get that one ready, move birds into it, put them up in their place, take the dirty one, clean it out, get it ready, move the other birds into it, put it up there, take the dirty one and clean it out, and then I've got the spare one. I just rotate them out. It does make cleaning them a lot easier for sure. All right. TH55269, that's, I can't remember, that was like helicopters. I remember we talked about that, where you got the username. Anyway, says, are Tuxedo and Coturnix hatch times lockdowns the same? Yes, they are. Found a guy nearby advertising fertile eggs, going to give hatching a try now. That you made me an expert. Well, hey, good luck with your hatch. I hope it goes well. Tuxedos are a Coturnix quail. They're just a different breed of them, just a different color mutation, basically. Everything is exactly the same. It doesn't matter if you're hatching tuxedos or A&Ms or English whites or jumbo farrows or jumbo meat makers or Italians or Manchurians. They're all Coturnix quail. It's all exactly the same. So you should do well with them. Hopefully you go well. All right, Walt says, at AB says, a quail tractor would work if it is predator proof. Good suggestion. I would give them a sandbox in a box to encourage them to lay in the box so you don't crush the eggs during the move. Good suggestion there too, Walt, because you're right. They will just lay eggs wherever, but if you give them a sandbox, they will be more likely to lay in the sandbox. All right, Kinsey says, has anyone in here raised pheasants? If so, what's the best breed for egg and meat? Thanks. I don't know a whole lot about pheasants, but I don't think they're a real good option for meat and egg production. They don't lay a lot of eggs, and they don't, where was I going with that? They don't lay a lot of eggs, and they take a long time to grow out, but somebody else may know better than I do. I've never raised pheasant myself. All right, Homestead Oz says, you can buy a toilet cistern mechanism and install it in a bucket, and you'll never have to worry about running out of water. Just clean the bucket once a month. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's a good suggestion. You can hook up a water hose to it so that it is an automatic fill. It'll just keep it full all the time, which is a really good suggestion. The thing that my problem is, I've never had a hose that didn't leak. I can't just leave my hoses on all the time. They'll develop leaks, and then it's going to cost me an arm and a leg, and not only that, but I'm going to have water leaking somewhere along the way. So that's why I haven't done it myself, but hey, if it works for you, go for it. Every hose I've ever had either leaks at the faucet where it's connected, or it develops a leak along the hose somewhere, or something like that. So I just can't leave them connected all the time. All right, Rhonda says, do you know anything about Holland Lops? I'm just wondering how old they should be before you start to breed them, the doe. I don't know a lot about Holland Lops. They're a pretty good sized rabbit. I would say, 6 months, maybe, probably about 6 months would be about the time. You'd want to get them to that age before you start breeding them. I don't see why they'd be any different than any of the other, medium to large size breed rabbits. Some of the giant breeds, like giant Flemish and some of those kinds of things, you need to wait a little bit longer. You really want to give them closer to a year. But your Holland Lops should fall in like with New Zealand's and those kinds of things, which would be about 6 months. All right. Brandy says she pulled a lot of fur and ran and, pulled a lot of fur and then had a baby right away after she pulled fur for her last litter. Yeah, that's pretty common too, Brandy. Most of my rabbits don't pull fur at all until they've had their babies. Then they pull the fur. But it's not, sometimes they do weird things. And if I remember right, what we were talking about is she pulled fur but hasn't had her babies yet. So again, don't stress about it. Give her a couple more days. Don't pester her too much. My bet is that she's going to have them in the next day or two if she hasn't started having them already. All right. Chris Harris says freezers are for freeloaders. I'm not sure what that's a reference to. I think you're talking about the freeloading birds. Maybe go to the freezer. I guess. Yeah, that's or rabbits probably. The mother rabbits that don't breed. Yeah, that's for they're for the freezer for sure. Walt says, Jack Spirko on YouTube, the Survival Podcast has the Who. You're right, that's who it was. It was Jack Spirko. I don't know if you guys know who Jack Spirko is, runs the Survival Podcast. I don't listen to it a lot anymore, but it's a great podcast. Lots of good information on just homestead type stuff, He's got a YouTube channel as well. He doesn't do consistent uploads to his YouTube channel, but he does have a lot of duck information. So whoever was looking for duck information, that would be a good resource for you for duck information. All right. Brandy Nichols says, who's Richard Booz? I don't know. Is that... Oh, it's somebody in here? It's somebody that watches the channel and is on the live broadcast. I'm not sure who it is. I don't know how to answer that question. I'm sorry. Abigail says, also, something I did not know until just now is if your doe doesn't pull fur, you can buy natural fiber replacement. That's a good point. You can do that. You can use lots of things. A lot of times you can just pull fur from the rabbit, though. Like I said, they produce hormones, which makes the fur in their dewlap really easy to pull. And you can just grab it and pull on it a little bit, and you should be able to pull a bunch of it out pretty easily. You're not ripping it out of their skin. It just pulls out pretty easily, so you should be able to do that. Mark says, for does, the car thing might get them more drowsy or sleepy, maybe? I don't know, maybe. And Brandy Nicole says, he told me hi, so, that's why you were asking. I think it's because you were saying hello, 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 and he was just responding to you and saying hi back to you. All right, Little Gladiator says, how often do you change your sand? I don't change it very often. I clean it out pretty regularly. Well, when I say pretty regularly, I'm having a hard time talking apparently. I clean it out probably once a month, when it starts to get kind of looking dirty to me. It depends on how many birds I've got in there. But I clean it out with a window screen. It's just a small window screen. It's about this wide by about that long. It's made to go in like a window, but it's, it's just it's on a frame and all that. So I just take it and sift the sand out, dump the droppings in a bucket. And then I just refill the sand whenever it gets low, because they kick a lot of it out still. But with the sand boxes that I have set up now, they're built into the cages with a 2x4 side. It keeps the sand in there pretty well, and I only have to add sand probably once every 4 or 5 months. I buy a bag of sand and dump it in there for them, but that's it. I don't have to add sand very often. Chris Harris says, breed or it's motion sickness time. You're talking about taking the does in the car and driving them around. Yeah, that's probably, maybe it freaks them out. Maybe they're like, oh no, where's he taking me? I better breed. He's going to take me and not bring me back. I don't know. Haley says, my doe had her first baby and it died. When can I breed her again? I'm so sorry to hear that, Haley. You can breed her again right away. I would give her probably a week to recover at least, and then you could go ahead and breed her again. All right, Mark says, love you, Chris. Thank you so much for your videos. God bless. Well, thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate that. All right, Joe Best says, I am doing your quail cages you did almost complete. Oh, I'm doing your quail cages you did almost complete. Thanks for the advice. No problem. I'm so glad to hear that that you're finding those things helpful. How are we doing on time? We got 10 minutes left. I got a bunch of chats to get through here. Anyway, hopefully the build goes well. Hopefully they turn out great. So, all right. Brandy Nicole says, I said subscribe, hit that bell, and leave a like or a thumbs up, please, and thank you. Thank you so much, Brandy. I appreciate that. And Verna says, they did look the same, and yes, you answered it perfectly. Thanks. How can you tell which bloodline you have? What are we talking about again, Verna? Are we talking about... Oh, this was probably the question you were asking me about what kind of birds I had. I said I had meat makers and pharaohs. I think that's what we're talking about. How can you tell which bloodline you have? Okay, well, I know this because of the eggs that were sent to me. They came from Kansas City Quail Farm, and I had farrow eggs and I had meat maker eggs, and they were separated so I could tell. And I kept them separate in the incubator. I put a piece of cardboard across it, and look at that. We got a super chat coming in from Lars again. Lars, thank you so much. You're always so generous. Coming here every week and just throw money at me. I so much appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay, so what was I saying? Oh, okay, so I put a piece of cardboard in the incubator to keep the eggs separate in the incubator. It just was like a barrier, a fence, basically, across the whole incubator. So when they hatched out, I knew which ones were farrows and which ones were meat makers, because otherwise, there's no way to tell. They look exactly the same. There's no way to tell the difference. But I want to keep them separate because I want to watch them over time and see if I can determine a difference. So far, that somebody called me. We're on my phone, so I lost connection there for a second. Where was I going with that? So anyway, I want to keep them separate because I want to watch for, over time to see if there's a difference when the way, if I can determine a clear winner. So far, it seems to be the farrows. My last hatch, I had a much better hatch rate. If you guys saw my video Monday, I did have a bunch more birds hatch out. Mostly the farrows. The farrows, I ended up with probably about an 80% hatch rate out of those eggs. The meat makers, I only ended up with probably a 50 to 60% hatch rate out of those eggs. That doesn't necessarily say anything. Who knows? It could be any number of things that cause that. But so far, it does seem like the farrows are just more consistent, better producers, better egg layers. Not by a lot, but by a little. So I don't know. We'll see if that goes on that way. All right. Hello to you, Barb and Owen. How are you doing? Rhonda says, I give oyster shell in an extra dish so they can eat as needed. That's not a bad suggestion. You're talking about supplements to give to your birds. That's a good suggestion. Give some oyster shell or some other kind of calcium supplement, but put it in a separate dish. Don't mix it in with your food. They'll eat as much of that as they need to. All right. All right. I'm your Huckleberry. Says, hey, Chris, shout out from El Paso, Texas. Love your videos and thank you. Well, thank you so much. And that person really wants to talk to me. He's going to have to wait 10 minutes. David Butler says, I raise pheasants in Manchurian Cross. Is the best I have found. I get hundreds of eggs from each every year. I don't know where to put them all. I don't know where to put them all. I get so many. Thanks, David, for that comment. I didn't know pheasants could be that reliable of a producer, so it's nice to hear. All right, hello to you, Mike. He says, good info as always. Thanks. Thank you so much. The Conscious Living Homestead says, had a power outage for a couple of hours once during the first 3 days in the incubator. Would you scrap them? No, I would. Well, if it was a 3-day power outage, yeah, that may be tough. I think I would still probably, unless I had other eggs that I was ready to throw in the incubator, I'd still probably try it and just see. First 3 days, it's the first 3 days. Not that big of a deal. Hang on just a second. Sorry, guys. Okay, sorry. Where was I going with that? Power outage. Okay, good grief. I do also have a battery. It's like a marine, deep cycle battery that I have an inverter for, and I keep it charged up. So if I have power outages, I can run things. It will run my incubator for a good long time. Maybe not 3 full days, but it will run it for a good long time for those kind of situations. But no, I wouldn't. I would still try it again, unless you have other eggs that you're ready to put in the incubator. Then you might just scrap them and put the other eggs in. But other than that, I would still go ahead and go through with it. All right, Rhonda says, I think the toilet sister would work good if you had a rainwater catchment system. That's a great idea, like a big 55-gallon drum or something that fed your other water supply. But then again, just run the quail off the 55-gallon water. I don't know, maybe. Abigail says, to Rhonda Snare, I breed Hollands and does, and you should breed at a year. Males as early as 6 months. Thank you for clarifying that for us, Abigail. I appreciate that. Walt says, pheasants only lay 50 to 60 days a year, and they need a lot of space and can fight a lot unless you put little blinders on them to prevent fighting. You would know Walt would know something about pheasants. I don't know much about them. All right, Robert says, can you trim quail beaks and nails? Yeah, you can trim them. I've never found it necessary to do that, not their nails anyway. I have found that I've had to trim a beak or two here or there, but very seldom do I have to do that. And again, trimming their beaks, I did a video on it a while back. Trimming their beaks is just like trimming nails. You just trim off the white part, don't get into the, trim off the clear part, don't get into the actual quick of the beak, the part that has blood flowing through it. All right, where are we at here? Oh, Brandy, it's not Brandy, it's Brandy's daughter. Alexia, I guess is your name. I'm going to forget that. I'm going to keep calling you Brandy. Don't be offended by that. I know I'm going to forget that, and I'm going to end up calling you Brandy again. Just be aware of that, that's all. Lisa says, can you please leave a link to the duck channel you mentioned? I don't know if it's, completely ducks, but he is, in fact, I just saw a post from him on Facebook that he just got new ducks in, so he's getting ready to start up what he calls his Duck Chronicles. So it'd be a great thing to watch. It's Survival Podcast is the name of it. I'll put it in the chat here. I'm not sure I think that's his YouTube channel name too. But it's not, and when you hear the Survival Podcast, you don't have to, it's not like, hopefully I'm not going to offend anybody. It's not like what you would normally think of. Yeah, it's the Survival Podcast. That's it. You can find it. Just search YouTube for the Survival Podcast, and he'll pop right up. It's not like, oh my gosh, I've lost my place. Okay, sorry. Okay, Survival Podcast is not like, build a bunker and hide out and prepare for the, Red Dawn style war. It's not like that kind of survival. It's more of a, he's just kind of he's into permaculture. So he really, he grows his own food. He raises ducks. A lot of those types of things, really more of a homesteading type thing than what you would consider necessarily survival. Hey, but it's a really good channel. It's a good podcast too to listen to. You learn a lot of different things from listening to him. I like him quite a bit. All right, Stay Survive says, I think the car trip trick is exposed to new smells. Yeah, that very well could be it. Savage Gaming says, just started watching your videos. I love them. I just started raising silkies. Any advice? Well, thank you very much, first of all, for watching the videos, and I'm glad you're finding them enjoyable. Oh, look at that. Well, he has a website called Duck Chronicles. It's just ducks. I didn't realize that. I thought it was all through his YouTube channel. Where was I at? Oh, raising silkies. I don't raise chickens myself, so I may not be the absolute best person for giving advice on that, but, birds are birds. It's pretty similar in a lot of ways. You want to keep them, if you just started raising them, you've got babies, you want to keep them in the brooder till they're feathered out. Before you move them outside. I don't know that there's a whole lot I can give you advice on. I don't know. I'm sorry. I can't. That's a broad topic. Give me advice. I don't know what else to tell you on them. I'm sorry. All right. Where are we at here? Chris's playlist for quail and rabbits. Jack Spirko for ducks. There you go. He had a really good video, now that I think about it too, on growing fodder for his animals. With like 5-gallon buckets, super simple, dead simple. In fact, he may have called it dead simple fodder. I don't remember. But if you look through, you might be able to find his video on that. Really easy. If you're looking at growing fodder, that's a way to do it. All right. Lahib says, I have 18 quails, 3 months old, 16 females and 2 males. I have another in growing area that are almost mature too, 6 females and 2 males. Can I mix them together? So we have 18 quail, 3 months old, 16 females and 2 males. I have another group growing another 6 females and 2 males that are almost mature. You can mix them together. If they're almost mature or mature, there's a good chance that there's going to be some fighting, some picking on each other as they, get acclimated. Depending on your birds, they may be a little bit overly aggressive. They may end up killing a bird. You just have to kind of watch them pretty closely. If they're not quite mature yet, you may have better luck with that. You're just going to have to try it out to see. That's the best I can suggest. David says, let's see where we at here. Oh, only got like a minute or two left. I got to get through this. David says, I haven't had a lot of them fighting. I have raised pheasants for years and never had a problem. I give about 10 square feet per bird. I have 20 hens. I get 20 eggs a day from March to late September. That sounds pretty good. And Walt's asking for some more information on that. The rooster to hen ratio, how many, or what breed. He said what breed they were. Oh, there he goes. Manchurian ringneck cross pheasants. I use 2 roosters to every 25 hens. Thank you so much for that, David. I appreciate it. Desert Blacksmith says a swamp cooler plastic drip pipe system would work and not leak for an autofill system. A swamp cooler plastic drip pipe system. It might. It might actually. I don't know. All right. I think the water pressure would be too much in the 55 and would cause leaks, but that it may not. All right, where are we at here? There was my comment. Verna says, what I am trying to prove, Chris, is that even in an apartment, you can lower your food bill a bit. I have grown potatoes and tomatoes outside, but we'll see if I can do the meat aspect as well. Hey, I don't have any problem with that, Verna. I think that's a great goal. See how much meat you can produce inside. I don't see why you can't. If nothing else, you're going to produce eggs, so you're going to have an egg production inside. And as far as things you can grow, now you mentioned tomatoes and potatoes, growing them outside. They're going to be hard to grow inside because you need full spectrum lighting for fruiting plants. But you can do, lettuce and salad greens and microgreens and all that kind of stuff indoors pretty easily. All right. Let's see. I got to get this wrapped up, guys. I'm sorry if I did not get to your comment tonight, but I'm out of time. I got somebody that's been calling me that I need to call back. And it's been a good hour here tonight anyway. Thank you guys for joining like you do every week. Thanks for the comments that keep me talking the whole hour. I appreciate that. Keep me engaged. I really enjoy these Thursday evening broadcasts, and I appreciate that you guys that come back every week and you guys that are here for the first time. Thank you all. Hopefully we got all your questions answered. God bless each and every one of you, and we will see you guys again next week. Take care.